So what I want to do is I want to talk today about some of the work that I've been doing over the past 20 years or so. And it's a work in progress. So although I've been doing this for 20 plus years, I don't feel like I'm anywhere near finished. And I know there's a lot more work that needs to be done. So you're catching the middle, if you will, that I have another good 20 years ahead of me. When I started this work, I had been doing work with adults and drinking problems with adults, and I realized I wanted to make a difference, and the way to make that difference, I felt, was to get younger and do work preventing them from having the problems that I was seeing with adults. And at the time, I got some advice from friends and colleagues. And the advice that they gave me when I said, I'm going to work with young people was, that won't work. That's a bad idea. That won't work. You have a nice career going. Are you sure you want to do this? Which is to work with parents and kids. And I felt like this was something I wanted to do. I wanted to make a difference. So as I embarked on this, I started at a point in time where people said, it's not really parents that make the difference in young people's lives with respect to the way they drink. It's their friends. And peers are everything. And parents are losing importance. They don't count. And I thought about that. And I thought about why. Well, the first is, when I say our culture, I mean all of our cultures. And we talk about globalization. I don't think drinking is all that different in the United States than it is here in Europe. People drink to get high. They drink to escape problems. They drink to have fun. They drink for social reasons. There could be some cultural emphasis in certain regions, but when we get together and we open a bottle of wine and we drink from a bottle of wine, by and large, our reasons for drinking from that bottle of wine are very similar. When our kids drink a beer or where our kids drink alcohol, whether they're children in Switzerland or children in France or children in the United States, they're experimenting just like everybody else. And so I heard the question this morning, well, what about the cultural differences? I'm not saying they don't exist. I believe they exist and they're powerful. But a lot of the early initiation and the young abusive patterns that we see, they seem to have very common threads, common elements, no matter where it is. In all of our cultures, drinking's a part of everyday life. It's part of the social experience that we engage. And it happens at all different ages. And by and large, young people drink for many of the same reasons that we do as adults. They drink to reduce the inhibitions and increase their social contact with other people. Some people actually make drinking either a competition or a game, and that's kind of youthful, but there's still peer influence for adults. There's many times where people say, well, I don't know if I should have another one as an adult, and they say, well, just a little bit more. There's only a little bit of wine left in the bottle, and they'll pour it. And so peer pressure exists even for us as adults, because more often than not, we'll say, oh, okay, fill my glass. One more, I'll be fine. So why do youth drink? We talked about this. One is their friends. Their friends drink. And where would they be without their friends to pour alcohol in their mouths when they pass out? I mean, really. Increased opportunities. We know that as it becomes more available, young people drink more often. So when it's in their home, when it's in their environment, when it's around them, they drink more, quite simply. And other reasons why youth drink is they are willing, and this is what we call increased willing. Dr. Mallett's here in the audience today with me, willing to experience what we as adults call consequences. They don't see these as consequences. So what we call bad things that happen to young people when they get sick or when they get hurt or when they get in fights or any of the things that we think of as negative consequences, they see as part of, this is just things that happen when you're young and you drink. And so they're more willing perhaps to experience the harm that comes with drinking than as an adult. For example, if I drink too much and I am tired the next day and I don't do a good job at work, The next time I'm going to drink, I might say, oh, not so much. I got to get up tomorrow. With young people, they're more willing to have the negative things happen because they believe that's part of the price they pay for the experiences that they have. So why do they drink? A lot of times it's because there's reduced social controls. And so we see a gentleman here drinking from a keg in the back alley, and he's an older person, but they're at a young person party. You see an individual here who's holding up what looks to be a large cup. He's an adult, but he has a lot of younger people around, and yet he's still drinking out of this big cup. In the next picture here, we see a mother, and she's drinking with lots of young people around. And my colleague, Dr. Mallet, who's sitting here, says, while this seems unusual, what's most unusual about it is she's wearing pink pumps while she's doing this. So reduce social controls. And if we look at both sides of this picture here, we see two different pictures of our young people. We see pictures of them going to school, playing, reading, studying, hanging with their friends, playing music, what we consider kind of a normal, youthful behavior, healthy behavior. On this side, we see individuals getting sick, clowning around, who knows. But these two parts are part of their lives. So that we have the good side and we have the bad side. And the question is, why do we have the good side and why do we have the bad side? Earlier, I saw that somebody had on a slide Larry Steinberg. And Larry Steinberg speaks about brain development. He talks about young people's brains are really not quite developed yet. And as a result, they're more willing to take risks. They don't see the consequences as harmful. They might not see future behavior the same way as adults do. Usually when young people are thinking about the future, they're thinking about later today when I go get to play video games, or this weekend, and that's their future. However, if you talk to them and you have conversations about future behavior, you could change their thinking a little bit. And I think it's not a matter of is the brain developed or not developed, but rather to what degree are the paths connected between emotion, I want this now, and the higher processing centers that make me think about, is this a good thing to do or a bad thing to do, problem solving and the like. So when we see these pictures here of normal, healthy, young people behavior, and we see these sort of abusive patterns, what we really are looking at are proxies for brains that are more mature or processing more mature, or brains that are less mature or processing less mature. And what I call, this is my English jargon, I call them proxies for this, or examples of the behavior. And if we look at a brain development, this is a young child at 5 years old, and we now know from Emmanuel's work that they could go shopping and know that they'll buy alcohol, but even at a young age. Up until 20 years old, we know that the brain doesn't fully form until 20 years old,